So last week's episode of Shibuya was definitely an interesting one, and I say this for two separate reasons. First being that we got to see Moegi's backstory, and second being because about 95% of this entire episode was full of anime-only content. Now, after doing some thinking, I'm assuming that this episode is why they utterly dogged on Golden Bath's pacing in an attempt to deepen Moegi and her mentor's characters a bit more. And to be honest, even while this episode is gorgeous and generally really good, I would have still taken a faithful adaptation of Golden Bath. Anywho, before we get into the Moegi backstory, I'd like to speak more about Sumiyaka and the Bunnies' strategy overall. While the Stumps and Moegi were basically getting themselves ready psychologically to face the Bunnies were already multiple steps ahead, which speaks to the fact that most of them are veterans. Before the game had even started, they had already surveyed the maze and were capable of figuring out just how big the game area was, that being about the size of a soccer field, drawing to the conclusion that the area was large enough to hold its position as a maze, but insufficient to stay hidden within for a whole week. When the game began, they learned that the Stumps all wore jumper dresses, and after the first encounter, two buddies died and they were able to capture one of the Stumps successfully. Now, to shed more light on why the Bunnies were tickling the lone Stump, it's actually because Hakushi herself strictly prohibited using violence to interrogate her, as in the game as big as Candlewood, all it do is cause morals to disintegrate and eventually lead to the group's downfall. Hell, this scenario was actually worse considering in the novels it was a group of 30 or so bunnies tickling her. And honestly, if I was a Stump, I'd probably prefer violence because this fate unironically seems way worse. Getting tickled by 30 or so beautiful girls wearing bunny girl outfits. Huh. Wait a minute, on second thought. Interestingly enough, within the novels, we actually didn't learn about the Wall of 30 from Hakushi but from Sumiyaka, which in my eyes made more sense considering that this game was her 29th, and you can tell by her mannerisms of wanting to continue to hug Yuki that she's truly afraid of it. Sumiyaka is someone who believes in the curse the Wall of 30 holds, and as per her description of it, the anxieties begin once a player nears the Wall of 30, not in their 30th game specifically. Within their talk, it's also revealed to us that their side was able to figure out the Stumps are led by Moegi, who's ruling her team through fear, and the only experienced member of said team. Sumiyaka and Yuki clarify to each other that even with this information, it doesn't mean they should drop their guard, as it was possible that they could have more weapons in their arsenal other than the bamboo knife and the Morning Glory pistol they already identified. I have a bit more information on their perception of certain weapons in the games as well if you're interested in that sort of thing. Yuki questions whether a pistol is even better than a knife due to both the presence of the preservation treatment and their lack of use in close combat situations, along with them being practically useless in the hands of a beginner. Although when it comes to a knife, it's easier to aim for a certain person's vitals, Sumiyaka clarifies that pistols within the game are actually easier for beginners and girls to use. She brings up how those over these games reuse the same weapons and simply change how they look, once again reconfirming what Moegi had said last episode, that there are only 8 rounds and it can't be reloaded, while also being sized for women and fit comfortably within their hands. Yuki takes this time after to question exactly what her true role in this game is, as the veterans are the ones firing the Stumps and all she has to do is stand in the room like a phantom. She wasn't sure why she even needed information about the enemy's weapons. You know, it's almost like a cruel joke. Amongst the prey within the game between rabbits and Stumps, there laid a wolf hiding amongst them.
よだかは実に醜い鳥です。顔はところどころ味噌をつけたようにまだらで。
As far as I know, the section of the episode was never in the novels, though take that with a grain of salt, as I've only read volumes 2 out of 5, which are currently translated. After seeing the woman who would go on to be her mentor at work, Moegi would beg to become her protege. through their initial conversation, Moegi will reveal how even though her parents are alive, she'd much prefer to kill them. I bring up this portion of their conversation because that's truly when I imagine her mentor took an interest in her, which you'd expect from a homicidal maniac if I'm gonna be completely honest with you. We also get a Shion mention through Moegi moving in with her and her mentor, and I have no idea who that is, sadly. Honestly, I thought she was an anime original character, so I'm in the dark as much as you guys. Apparently she's a future character, but I'll wait till I get to volume 4 when she supposedly appears. The ambiance of tension that they're able to bring within this home they reside in is fairly well done. Her mentor's room, to be exact. The multitude of trash bags around it kinda reminds me of Yuki's apartment, along with the many screens she has access to as she looks at different pictures. In my eyes, either she's attempting to look for more loose-fitting clothes, which she prefers, or most likely her next victim. And we also see the inner conflict of Moegi feeling weak due to her inability to kill others without a second thought, unlike her mentor, through her hesitation with tagging along to watch her commit murder, along with her hesitation to even kill her own parents. Now, when it comes to the classroom portions, I can't exactly think about what they're meant to show. I would love to explain why that is, but that's sadly a spoiler. That will most likely come to light in the season finale, or hey, maybe even next episode. Just know that Moegi's mentor never actually took on any other proteges. Sadly, I couldn't find the name of the second poem she recites, unlike the first, and if you'd like to tell me in the comments, go ahead, maybe I just didn't look hard enough for it. But between that and her beginning to kill her next victim, it was amazing cinematography, along with the way she killed the girl being a parallel to the first life Moegi took in Candlewoods. Their weapons also show a difference of maturity within this life of death. With Moegi using a pistol made to look like a Morning Glory, basically think of it as a child pretending to be a killer, and her mentor being able to commit such acts with an unfiltered pistol. I was also a big fan of how the intro points were handled. Having them more unrefined and handwritten really helps to showcase how this is describing to us essentially Moegi's childhood. Though I know it was to build up how Moegi is truly afraid of her mentor's unpredictability, and hey, I'm a big crab fan myself, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't need a minute and 2 seconds of them munching on crab legs in silence. Yes, I did time it. I was bored. And maybe it's just mean, but I know their hands hurt after tearing so many crab legs, bro. Anyways, moving on, based off the scene, I'm assuming she would strangle her parents eventually and succeed with taking their lives. Moegi reciting the poem alongside her master is most likely an attempt to prove to herself that she's truly becoming more like her. An attempt to prove to her own self that she could hold on to such strength too, that she isn't her mentor. Moegi could never truly become like her mentor, no matter how much she tried, no matter how much she pleaded to mimic the demonic angel that stood beside her, no matter how much she wished for the sun that she could share an ounce of that strength she embodied. She simply couldn't. One thing the anime did perfectly in my mind was showcase the broken psychology of the stumps after their initial push. The stumps, while capable of taking out a few bunnies, were obviously outclassed in every facet of the word. The predators became the prey real quick and got massacred by those more experienced than them. I especially liked the portrayal of the girl who constantly played the stump's message over and over again, as she slowly descended into madness before taking her own life, which is interesting considering she wasn't the one initially plagued by such thoughts. Moegi was in a state of disarray, and there was nothing they could do to possibly win this game. So she thought back to old war movies where commanders would kill themselves when surrounded by the enemies. Back then, she didn't even understand why the commanders wouldn't fight till their final breaths, until she finally realized, as waiting for death was far more frightening than death itself. I mean, when she thought about it, it'd be possible. She had shot the first girl 3 times, the second girl 3 times, and the third girl once, meaning 1 bullet remained. She would raise her right hand where the gun was held, with thoughts of whether she would die painlessly or suffer quite a bit due to the preservation treatment and the general small diameter of the gun barrel, but it didn't really matter, as the outcome would be the same in the end. Moegi was brought out of her downward spiral when Irie called out for her. Surprisingly, the girl had killed 4 bunnies compared to her 0, even though she was the experienced player. Irie would report something grim, as she would reveal that she reportedly found the body of a stump, stripped out of her clothes, her body being cut open with organs and everything else being ripped out as if she were killed for pleasure, along with a bunny girl costume laying beside her, which means someone had disguised themselves as a stump. And that's when multiple chills went down Moegi's spine, as she remembered something her master told her, that she had a distaste for tight clothing, which is something the jumper dresses worn by the stumps took care of. Moegi would swiftly tell Irie to run, and right after begin to panic. She knew that clearing the game with her master getting the mix would be absolutely impossible. Killing to her was the same as drinking salt water. Once she starts, she can't stop. A woman who will leave no player left behind. A homicidal maniac with aggro wood colored hair. A compulsive serial killer who went by the player name Kiara.